Hi, I'm the Moorlander and this is Moorlander EDC. Wanted to continue some of the videos that I've done in the past. If you look here, you'll be able to see a video that I did a few weeks back on travelling abroad and my EDC whilst abroad. Now that video itself was actually quite popular, a little bit more popular than I was expecting, so I'm guessing from the popularity of that you guys would like to see a little bit more of these videos. Again, if you do like this, then definitely hit that like button so that I can gauge that this is the kind of stuff that you like. But what I thought I'd do is, this comes off the back of me being a part of several different groups, especially one that I highly recommend that we'll talk about a little bit later, and people trying to get in to EDC. Now, whether you're, I don't know, completely new at it, you're green at the gills, you don't know what to do to get into EDC, the truth is you're probably already an EDC style person before you even think that you can consider yourself EDC. You know, the EDC life, you don't choose the EDC life, the EDC life chooses you, yeah! So what I thought I'd do is I'd just talk for a bit about getting into EDC and things that you should think about. So I've boiled it down to three things. The first one being that your EDC is 100% personal to you. Your EDC, yep, that's the one just there. Yours will be completely different to the next man's, or ladies, or you know, whatever, because it's always 100% down to yourself. And that comes down to your values, that comes down to how you want to be prepared for life, and that comes down to financial things, which unfortunately a lot of things have to come down to nowadays, don't they? It's important that you understand that bit. I know it sounds daft to say, but your EDC is a massive reflection of you. So if you're in the forces, you might find that you have a specific EDC because of things that you've come across, and you know that's how you want to prepare yourself. If you're not in the forces and you stack shelves on a day-to-day basis, then you will have an EDC that is completely different, polar opposites to somebody else, and it's understanding that that's okay. If you meet up with somebody and you know we're all very friendly and popular, accommodating here in the EDC world, and you see that yours is completely different, don't judge yourself on somebody else's, and also don't let somebody else judge you on yours. If you can afford a $300 a bespoke knife that's made just for you, to your specs, you know, you've chosen the steel, you've chosen the scales, all that sort of stuff, that's great. I'd love to be in that position. But if you buy a knife and it costs £10, $10, then that's fine. You shouldn't judge yourself or allow others to judge you on that. And that's the most important thing, I think. The number one reason, if you're thinking of getting into EDC, is to make sure that you always keep that in mind. EDC is all about being, I feel like I'm getting a bit preachy now, but EDC is all about kind of just, it's like being prepared for life. So, as I say, if you're in the forces, you know, there's certain things that you always want to be prepared for. Whereas if you're stacking shelves, and that's not to pick on people stacking shelves, it's a job in this day and age, then you will have something that will reflect your life and your needs. If it is that you save all of your money for that expensive knife, that's fine. It's completely up to you. Don't judge yourself on other people's carries, and don't let other people judge you on your carries either. A lot of that does come down to those financials. So that's the first one, and that really is the most important. Now, when you're thinking of that first one, always think about that first one when I'm talking about these other two, because the first one has so much sway on everything else. As I say, you know, it's 100% individual to you. The second one's the basics. So I mentioned that I'm part of a group on Facebook, which is a great group. There's lots of groups out there. This one I'm particularly, I'm not invested in it, but you know, I think it's a great group, which we'll get onto in a second. But when you join groups, you find a lot of people going, oh, you know, I've just started into EDC and I've only got this knife, or I've only got this and it's a bit naff, it's not as nice as everybody else's. This is what I mean. Think about that it is 100% dependent on you and personal to you. So my second point is just the basics. A lot of people are asking, what do you need to carry to be in EDC? Now, it massively depends, again, because of who you are and what you want to carry. But there are certain things that everybody probably carries, and that's where you go from just being not EDC, but you can still be, if you know you want to consider yourself as that, to more of your EDC specific type of person. So you've got things like a wristwatch. Most people carry a wristwatch. You've got things like a wallet or a billfold. Most people carry one of those. I think when you're looking at the generic things, keychain, a lot of people carry a keychain. You know, you need to get it in your car, in your house. Mobile phone, which normally I'd be able to pull out now, but unfortunately I'm recording this on it. So they're the everyday kind of things. So I reached out to the group that I'm a part of, and I said, you know, I'm making this content today, and I wanted to show that it's 100% individual to you, but a lot of people ask, what are the basics? Now I have them all down in front of me, so there'll be moments where I'm just reaching down. The first one probably is when you're stepping out of the normal wallet, watch, phone, that sort of stuff. Probably the quintessential basic of EDC is a pocket knife. And these range from $100, $300, $400, $500, $1,000 knives down to the cheapest knife that I own, and this is the Sword Peasant Mini. Here in the UK they cost about £14 or £15. I think the US equivalent is roughly, again, probably about the same. It's about $10 to $12. It's the cheapest knife that I own, but it's the one knife that I love the most. A knife itself is a very practical tool, and that's what it should be used for. One of the bits that I meant from the first bit, and you know, depending on your values in life, here in the UK we have had some trouble with knife crime, which unfortunately isn't the people that are responsible and carry knives, it's you know, the naughty people in life. So if you've been affected by knife crime, or you're worried that carrying a knife that you might get stopped by the police and, you know, you'll have it took from you, you shouldn't worry about that. All three of these knives here are UK legal knives. Do a YouTube search for UK legal carry, UK legal knives, and there's a hell of a lot of videos out there that'll go into what makes a UK legal knife. And mainly it's down to whether it can lock or not. None of these knives lock. They're called slip joints. So it limits the thrusting ability, because there's every chance that it'll come back and it'll cut you. But again, three really useful, really nice pocket knives. A lot of people mentioned in the group, a lot of people go back to the Swiss Army knife, or the sack, as people call it. So useful. This is the Pioneer. There's also a Pioneer X, where it's got an extra tool, some scissors on there. Great things, and this really is probably the kind of base minimum that people look at to then going from your normal carry into an EDC carry. After that, all of this extra stuff is stuff that I think is useful to carry, but that doesn't mean that you might think it's useful to carry. So for me, this is my basic, but the next person's basics may be completely different, and they just go, do you know what the fundamentals is? If you can carry a knife and you can use it as a tool on your day-to-day life to help you, that's great. Everything else is just nice to have. So, some little things in here. Oh, drop one. I think it's always great to have a flashlight, and again, these range from a tiny little keychain flashlight like this to a more powerful O-light flashlight. Well, actually they're both O-light flashlights, but they vary in price. But then there's completely different and unique flashlights that you can have that you can magnetize onto something. It 100% depends on you and your individuality and how you want to carry your EDC. Other things which I probably should have done before the flashlight. If I was ranking these, the pocket knife would probably be the first. The next one would probably be a pen. So simple. And these can range from the super cheap Bic pens, even up to like a zebra pen like this. Not particularly expensive here in the UK, costs about £5 to £7. Whether you think that's, you know, an investment, you can go up to a Mont Blanc pen and you can spend hundreds of thousands of pounds on a pen. So the first one would be the knife, next one would be the pen, and then probably would be the flashlight for me. Then, as I say, so they're probably the three minimums for me, not for you. It's completely down to you, but for me they're the ones that I carry every day. I generally always have a knife on me, a UK legal knife, and then I tend to mix up some of the other things that I've got. One of the other things is some sort of tool, and that is completely, again, specific to your day-to-day life, your role, what you do. If you're into skateboarding at the weekend, you go out, or you're into mountain biking, you might carry a tool that's specific to that. If you're into photography like this, there might be certain tools that, you know, you'll carry. So here have a few different tools. The humble pry bar is so useful. You can do so many things with this. It's got little hex nuts on it. It's also got a bottle opener, and it's a super useful pry bar. You've also got things like a little Nipex Cobra pliers. Again, so pocketable. If I was to put this up against a Swiss Army knife, you can see it's not much. So you can have something that you can be able to cut things, and a screwdriver, but also be able to bend things and pick things up. If you want, which a lot of people do, is you've also got things like your Leatherman multi-tools. So these are super useful because you can get a lot of things in here, in the fact that, one, you've got the pliers that we've just looked at, but you've also got a knife there as well. And then novelty things. Come across things like these are called King Dick spanners. These are from the UK. It's an amazing company. These are very old fashioned adjustable spanners. Here in the UK we call it a spanner. In America you might call it a wrench, or other places around the world. And then the last thing for me is something to be able to carry it in. Now, I got into EDC mainly through the carry side. Always been a massive bag man. Generally, I've always had more bags than Mrs. Moorlander has. In fact, if you were to take Moorlander replacement 1 and 2 and Mrs. Moorlander and collate all of their bags, I can guarantee I've probably got more than them. So if I take these off here, and again, always think about rule number 1. This is completely down to you. If you have an old school bag that you've had for 20 years and you like that bag, that's the bag for you. Okay, it 100% comes down to which bag you prefer to use. You have your shoulder bags, which, you know, you're more like these kind of man bags nowadays. Also used a lot with sling bags, whether it's just a pouch. Some people prefer to have something that you can just keep stuff in, nice and simple. It keeps everything together. You've got the majority of things in your pocket, but if there's extra things, you can put them into there. But then you've also got your larger bags, whether you prefer to have a larger sling bag, whether you prefer to have a larger backpack. They range from 10 litres all the way up to 42 litres, which would be very difficult to EDC on a daily basis. But, you know, hey, it's up to you. It's completely 100% down to you. If you're a Sherpa, there you go. If you're a Sherpa and you want to carry a 42 litre bag every day, good for you. I don't, it's a bit too big for me, to be fair. I use these from Tasmanian Tiger. You know, I'm lucky enough that I've been able to become an ambassador here in the UK for Tasmanian Tiger, and that's down to the fact that I loved their products before I contacted them. And I suppose that really comes into that first one as well, the fact that it's, you know, it's 100% down to you, and that's about what you like, or what you prefer, what you love. You can say love, you know, it's a strong feeling, but whatever you prefer or love to carry, that's the carry for you. Now they're my basics. You could probably distill that down just into that one, which is the humble pocket knife. You know, it's a very functional and great tool to have in your pocket. If you keep within the laws within the UK and you're stopped with that, there's no reason, unless you're deemed to be using it in an inappropriate way, that the police would need to take it from you. And also be mindful of the fact that when you're talking to a police officer, if you come across bolshy and yeah, I don't give a shit because this is a UK legal knife, there's every chance that they'll take it off you. If you're polite and respectful, then, you know, it's a great conversation to have with the police. Now the last thing, well, my third point, which is something that I've mentioned as I've been going through all this, and the main reason that I wanted to say that, you know, I'd mention to people in a group, my third point would be join a group. Have a look on Facebook, have a look on Instagram. There are lots of groups out there. I'm a member of the EDC Cooperative, which is a group on Facebook. They're also on Instagram as well. On Facebook you tend to have more of a discussion, whereas on Instagram it tends to be more of sharing images. Whereas get onto Facebook, find a group, whether it's a UK group, whether it's a North American group, whether it's an Australian group, whether it's a Pac Asia group, then, you know, it's completely down to you. Or join an international group, which is one like the EDC Cooperative. No one should judge you. That's the biggest thing, and that comes to that main point as well, especially within groups like the EDC Cooperative. Nobody judges. If you turned up with a rusty old knife that your granddad had given you, and you've got a story behind that it was a knife that he had when he came back from World War II, they will love that sort of stuff. And this is the best thing about EDC. EDC generally tends to be the conversation starter. Conversation starter. You somewhere, you pull out a Swiss Army knife to open a box, and somebody will go, wow, what's that? And you go, oh yeah, okay, it's this. And then they'll go, oh, I didn't realise that you were into that. You know, yeah, so a friend of mine, we started a group where we get Spyderco knives. You know, wow, brilliant, shake hands, hug, do the EDC hug. No, but you know what I mean. The best thing about groups is that you can look at what other people do, but then you can also discuss pros and cons of different things. Most groups, in fact all groups, that's a daft thing to say, not most groups, but all groups are very accommodating, very respectful, and again, the important thing is that you're not judging your carry on other people's carries, and also not allowing other people to carry your to judge yours. There's quite a lot of banter, you know, certain people like certain brands. Mr. Smith loves 511 Tactical, but Mrs. Evans is a massive Hazard 4 lady. Who cares? As long as you like your carry and you chose it for the reasons that are because you wanted to carry and not for the reasons that somebody else wanted you to carry, then yeah, you're good. I've probably forgotten quite a few things as I've been going through that, and it's starting to go dark where we are, so hopefully you can still see me. But the main reason that I got this is from making this video is from lots of questions and comments that I see in certain groups. And it was one of the comments that I'd seen where people would come into a group and they'd say, oh, you know, new to EDC, my carry isn't as amazing as your carry, or, you know, I'm struggling to understand how to do this, you know. Don't worry about your carry. Start basic, start simple, start within the realms of what you can afford and that suits your lifestyle, and then build on it. If it takes you 6 months to build on it, doesn't matter, who cares. If it takes you 5 days and you've got the money that you can go out and you can just buy all the things that you want, that's cool as well. It's completely down to you, and it's completely down to your lifestyle. I hope you like this video. Completely different to a lot of the stuff that I usually do. I don't want to come across as trying to tell you what to do, because that's not what EDC is about, and that's that first thing about, you know, it's completely down to you. But hopefully this helps, and hopefully you can start enjoying EDC. So I mentioned about Instagram and Facebook. Definitely check out on Instagram and Facebook EDC Cooperative. Also have a look for me on Instagram for Moorlander _EDC. Facebook it's Moorlander EDC. And yeah, enjoy yourself, enjoy EDC, and have fun. Cool. Stay safe. Stay Moorlander. Stay EDC.